Hi, it's me again with Corel Tips and Tricks, and this is part 2 of making this paint can rack. Pretty easy, came out pretty good, but I thought I would do a little bit more to it. I think the gentleman who made this actually has recesses on the shelf for the can to fall into, which would be pretty easy. And in the first video, if you didn't watch the first video, you need to watch it so you kind of gather along. But I always make a duplicate of stuff, and here's why. Because I'm going to use this guy again. And then I've got him still. So we're going to grab all this, and we're going to go to Object and Group and Ungroup All. We're going to take away the outside. We're going to take away that paint can. And we're going to take away that shelf and all these shelves. Now I'm going to Control G and group this together. And I'm going to rotate this guy a negative 45 degrees. So now we have a flat plane. This is where we need to put our access hole. Now, one thing I did not do, I did not make a copy of the holes. So I'm just going to make another copy and grab that and break it apart. So it must be a curve, so I'm going to break the curve apart. I just need one of these circles. And if you look, it's I made it 2.85. So we're going to draw a 2.85 long line. Doesn't really matter how thick it is. And we're going to place it on our rack. Whoop. Right below the can. And there's a way you get that perfect. Let's break this apart for a second. And we could grab that one and grab the object and go CE. Now that, I want to make sure the paint can just move straight down. And it did. So now our line is right in the center of that paint can, if that made any sense. Don't worry about the thickness. So probably the best thing to do is just take the parallel dimension tool and measure from that point to that point. And I'm not even. You want to be even. So I even do it on a line sometime at an intersection in a node. And we're 0.69. So this is going to be the bottom and the top on a couple of them. So we need to think about that. So Control D and make a duplicate of this guy. Break the curve apart. We want those holes exactly where they are. So we want to group them together. And we want to duplicate them, but we don't want to touch them. And we want to just nudge it up out of the way for saying, because those holes need to be there. Now, holding down the control button, so they'll come straight down. And then change our nudge distance to 0.69. Now grab our 6 circles and nudge them down 0.69. Okay, so here's the scenario. You need, if you're going to double it up, you need 5 of these. Control G, Control D. You need 5 of these, but then you also need 5 of these. So let's just, well, we don't need to delete it. We've already got 5 of these, so we just need 5 of these. And so what's going to happen, you're going to use them every other one. So this is grouped together. Let's make sure this is grouped together. Control G, and let's move it out of the way. And let's make it all black. So the holes are all black. let's move this one and put it right on top of that one. So when you sandwich them together, this one is going to be on top of one shelf. So it's going to have holes through it, both here and here. Well, let's do this. Let me nudge this so it'll make a little bit more sense. Let's nudge 8 inches, and let's nudge that in. So let's color this in wood, like a wood color. That's pretty close to MDF. Now, let's nudge this back up and put it to the front of the top of the page. So that's what it's going to look like. Every layer is going to look like that. You're going to have a solid bottom with holes only in the front. And then on the second layer, you're going to have holes in the front and holes in the back. So you're going to cut these out, and all it is going to do is make recesses for the bottom of the can to go into. I'm not 100% sure it's necessary. It would look a little better. So you need, 5 shells, so you need 5 copies of each if you're going to sandwich them. Now, I mentioned indexing holes because you're going to have to glue these things together, and you want them to glue precisely. So get you a piece of dowel, and this is really where I want to work in the center of the page. So I want to move all this stuff out of the way. Doesn't really have to be. I just get so used to working in the center of the page. And first of all, I want to make his page, I think he said 35.5 by, or 35.5 by, let's say it's 24, I don't know. Now here's how you're going to do the indexing dowel. And you're going to do it on the sides too, but we're going to bring this one in the center of the page. Then get a dowel or go buy a dowel in this, anywhere. Hobby Lobby sells dowels, Home Depot. Get you like a 1/4-inch dowel. And then you'd want to do some testing with this to make it a 1/4-inch hole, 0.25. If I would have had my ratio locked, it would have already done this. So you got a 1/4-inch dowel. Now bring in that dowel, put it in the center of the page. Doesn't really matter. And because this is going to be, it's really not a decorative shelf, it's a useful shelf. So well, 8 inches is good. Let's Control D and make a duplicate of that dowel. And make a duplicate of that dowel. And if you could actually go a little bit further. Let's go 4 more inches. Grab just the dowel, nudge it over. Well, that's too far. Let's put it back, nudge it like 3 inches. Nudge that dowel over, nudge this dowel over, and just take that dowel away. You really just need 2 dowels. The 2 dowels, test them on a piece of wood and get them really tight where you've got to, basically, by the time you put glue on them, you gotta kind of tap them in there with a hammer, and then you can smooth them off. Now, if you remember, this is separate of this. So let's grab those 2 and Control G. And now let's make a duplicate of the whole thing and nudge it out of the way twice. Our holes are still there. You see them? Now, just delete this. Our holes are still there. We'll take this one down, hit P, put it in the center of the page. Because the other one was in the center of the page. So now our dowel holes are in the same exact spot for each layer. Control G and make a duplicate. Or Control G and put them together. Let's make sure we got this is all grouped together. Control G. Now let's put it in the center of the page. You can see they match. And our holes are on top of each other because you can't see the red one below. Let's do this just to prove it. Let's click on the item and go Object, Order, Back of Page. Well, That didn't really work. Okay, let's do this. 1/4 inch offset. Let's zoom in. And let's move 1/4 inch. Now you can see both sets of holes. Well, it did work, except for all my holes are black. So you know your holes are perfect. So just move them out of the way, make your 5 copies of each, cut them out, and then do the same thing on the sides. The sides probably need double, and we've already made it, but do the exact same thing I did for holes in the side. And on this particular one, I might put 4 dowels, you know, and the good thing about it, Control G, rotate it 45 degrees. It'll fit, rotate 90 degrees. It'll fit in his laser bed, just barely. You could make it a little bit shorter. Now, people that don't have a 35.5 inch laser, you know, and on this particular one, you could take some off the top and the bottom and still have the same spacing. And that would be very easy. Go to Object, Group, and Ungroup. And this is already a curve, so take your Shape tool. Well, it wasn't a curve. Take your Shape tool and set your nudge factor on like, well, 1/4 inch is good. Take your Shape tool and grab these nodes and just nudge them up 1/4 inch. It didn't change anything. It made it a little bit shorter. And if you want to make it equal, you could do that. And then you could cut that out. Now, if your laser is only 24, just do 4, you know, just do 3 racks of cans. You know, make it fit. Anyway, I truly hope that helped a little bit. And thank you for watching.